Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into one of the most fascinating, universally human experiences out there, our search for meaning in a totally chaotic world.
Okay, let's dive into this. Have you ever experienced a coincidence so incredibly uncanny that it literally stopped you in your tracks? A moment where it felt like the universe was reaching out to tap you right on the shoulder? Well, the central mystery we're looking at today is exactly that. Is the universe actually guiding you towards some grand destiny, or is your brilliant ancient brain just playing tricks on you to help you survive? It's a massive question, and it's one that has completely divided philosophers, scientists, and spiritual seekers for centuries.
Part 1. Signs from the Universe, Decoding Divine Guidance. Now, what's really interesting about this is how common the feeling of being mysteriously guided by the cosmos actually is. From a spiritual perspective, it's the belief that life isn't just some random series of accidents, but a beautifully orchestrated path. We see these signs pop up all the time in daily life. Maybe you keep seeing repeating numbers, like looking at the clock at exactly 11:11, which people often interpret as a nudge toward manifestation. Or take animal totems. One of our sources actually described repeatedly seeing pairs of birds flying together right before they made this massive, life-altering decision to move across the globe and get married. And this often gets very practical. It's grounded in those highly relatable everyday moments we all have. Think about just getting lucky. You're running insanely late for a crucial meeting, and suddenly, boom, you hit a perfect streak of green lights. Or, as one of our sources shared, imagine you're stuck at an airport, totally exhausted, out of points, and then serendipitously, the lounge card machine breaks, and they just wave you in for free. Believers view things like this not as statistical anomalies, but as real moments of divine grace and unseen protection. So in this spiritual worldview, recognizing these meaningful coincidences is absolutely essential for aligning with your true destiny. The idea is that the universe is always broadcasting. We just need to tune our receivers to the right frequency.
Part 2. The Hero's Dark Night, Answering the Call. So how have humans mythologized this deep internal journey over time? Well, the renowned mythologist Joseph Campbell discovered a storytelling pattern that shows up across all human cultures. He called it the hero's journey, or the monomyth. Think of Dorothy leaving Kansas, or Luke Skywalker leaving Tatooine. You are the hero of your own life. When the universe sends you a sign, that's your call to adventure. It's pulling you out of your ordinary everyday world and into the great unknown so you can face your ultimate tests.
But as we know, that journey is not always just green lights and lucky breaks. Answering the call often leads to what Carl Jung and others refer to as the dark night of the soul. Now, it is absolutely vital to distinguish this from clinical depression. Clinical depression is a medical condition characterized by a sense of stagnation, apathy, and feeling trapped in a closed state. A dark night of the soul, on the other hand, is viewed as a spiritual crisis. It's an ego rupture. And yes, it's incredibly painful, but it's a dynamic process that's actively pushing you toward profound transformation, meaning, and truth.
Part 3. The Science of Magical Thinking, Our Evolutionary Survival.
Okay, let's pivot sharply here. What if all of this, the signs, the journeys, the profound meaning, what if it's all actually just our brain's machinery doing exactly what it evolved to do? Psychologists point to a concept called apophenia. This is our brain's profound tendency to connect causally unrelated events and perceive meaningful patterns within completely random data. Think about it. In ancient times, our ancestors had absolutely no idea why a thunderstorm hit or a plague swept through their village. Inventing rituals like a rain dance gave them a sense of control. It kept them functional instead of just being paralyzed by fear. And honestly, we haven't evolved as far from that prehistoric cave as we'd probably like to think.
Nobel Prize-winning psychologist Daniel Kahneman mapped this out brilliantly with his model of two thinking modes. System 2 is our logical, analytical brain. It's slow, it carefully examines evidence, and it takes a ton of energy. When we're exhausted, sick, or terrified, System 2 literally shuts down to conserve resources. That is exactly when System 1, our fast, emotional, highly intuitive brain, eagerly takes the wheel. It instantly generates confident answers, desperately grasping at simple, magical explanations just to make us feel safe.
Part 4. Traps of the Mind, Why We Choose Comfort Over Truth.
The harsh scientific reality is that our human brain prioritizes survival over objective truth, and that sets up some pretty classic cognitive traps. We've got confirmation bias, which is noticing the clock at exactly 11:11, but conveniently ignoring the hundreds of other times we checked the time and it was, say, 2:43. Then there's the illusion of control. This is where we inexplicably trust our unwashed, stinky lucky socks on game day over actual statistics and logic.
We also have a trap called post hoc ergo propter hoc, which is a fancy way of saying we assume causation just because one event followed another. Like taking a random herbal supplement the day before a cold was naturally going to run its course anyway. And of course, catastrophizing, where a minor inconvenience suddenly feels like the absolute end of the world.
So the crucial point is that this all culminates in survivor bias. We end up basing our entire belief system on that one viral miracle story we hear. You know, the one person who beat the odds. Meanwhile, we completely and silently ignore the thousands of statistical failures that we never hear about. It makes an absolute exception look like a perfectly reliable rule.
Ultimately, a human mind under siege desperately wants comforting labels. If the choice is between a terrifying, unpredictable reality and a magical, comforting illusion where we actually have some control, the brain is going to choose the emotional painkiller every single time.
Part 5. Bridging Science and Spirit, the Pauli-Young Conjecture.
So we've seen the spiritual beauty and we've seen the rigorous science, but what if they aren't mutually exclusive? This is where Carl Jung's famous concept of synchronicity comes in. Heavily influenced by Eastern philosophy like the I Ching and the philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer, Jung believed that perceiving meaningful coincidences was actually a healthy function of the mind. He argued that just because an event lacks a physical, discoverable cause and effect connection doesn't mean it lacks an objective connection in nature.
Let's see how this builds into Jung's three-part model of the human psyche. First, he said we are pushed by our past. That's psychological causality. Second, we are pulled toward our future potential and self-actualization. That's teleology. And third, our path is enhanced by meaningful chance, synchronicity. He genuinely believed causality and acausality work beautifully together to unfold the human experience.
And he didn't develop this all in a vacuum. Jung actually collaborated with the Nobel Prize-winning quantum physicist Wolfgang Pauli. Together, they developed the Pauli-Young conjecture. They theorized that quantum entanglement, the phenomenon where particles affect each other instantly across vast distances without any physical connection, could serve as a model for the relationship between mind and matter. They proposed a truly radical idea, that the currency of these correlations wasn't just cold statistics, but actual meaning. Which leaves us with a final, fascinating question. As you navigate the absolute chaos of life, will you trust the magical signs? Will you rigorously verify the science of your own mind? Or will you find a way to embrace both? Perhaps the universe really is speaking to us, or perhaps our brains are just brilliantly protecting us. Either way, the human search for meaning is a beautifully complex journey. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the world around you.